Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of Witty Banter. Your hosts Nabil, Daniel, and Anika are here. And Anika is back from her trip to Malaga, Spain. How was that trip overall?
Highly recommended. We went around all these smaller villages and
Some very steep castles.
some very steep castles, some caves, prehistoric caves, some rock formations up on the top of a mountain, and so a lot of history, a lot of culture, a lot of eating.
For those unaware, where is Malaga?
Malaga is on the south of Spain. It's Costa del Sol, a place where a lot of people go vacationing, but it is also the coast at which the Muslims invaded Spain when they did, and that's where in that region you have a lot of Muslim history as well. So thoroughly enjoyed it.
Some of the program we've been watching recently, Game of Thrones, was filmed in Spain. Although I don't know if it was anywhere near Malaga, but yeah.
We missed out on some energy today.
Yeah, I think we've been drained from the marathon watching that we did yesterday.
We had to catch up on. I had to catch up basically on all of the Game of Thrones episodes. We did a quick check-in as well. I skipped 2 seasons, but I have caught up. And today, I think what we all have found interesting is trying to identify the story elements in this vast story and seeing how we're all hooked onto it, me more recently and you two for the past few years. And somehow your hopes are waning, Nabil. You feel that this is...
Mine are not.
This is going downwards. So tell us a bit about, Game of Thrones and your prediction on Game of Thrones and why it's waning. And
spoiler alerts ahead.
Daniel,
so tune out now if you're, for whatever reason, planning on watching Game of Thrones and don't.
Well, we haven't seen it, so we're like everybody else.
Right.
Well, some people might not.
Just if somebody is not caught up, spoiler alert to them.
Maybe it's a good study session for them, like it was for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I thought season 7 was stagnant. To generalize it, nothing much happened, and we ended up where we started. It was really, let's convince Cersei that there's a real threat. Arya gets her revenge on some people.
And Peter. That's about it.
Yeah, Peter.
So then the question is, can a story like that, because there was a time when you were also into Vikings and into all of these other grand scale shows, is there a way that a story can go on and keep you connected for longer than 5, 6, 7 years?
I think stories have a good point to stop, and then it's up to the author to pull the plug at the right time. Well, I guess in this case it's like writers and directors of the series, TV series, so they have to recognize when the right time to stop is.
Should they have stopped it last year?
I guess I'll be the judge once we see this season 8.
But Daniel's upbeat.
I think. Well, I agree with you. Season 7 was like fairly stagnant. I think they could have ended on season 7 with what they're currently doing at season 8. I don't think they need to do a lot of the setup, but I don't think it's going to be as bad. Like when you're talking about shows that last through seasons, I think of Breaking Bad, and they do go off on tangents, but I think overall I'm still interested in the show, and I'm still interested in what happens. So I think stopping at 8 makes sense. Sometimes they go past 8 and maybe that's unnecessary, but I think it's like this is like enough. Like this is a good amount of what they're doing and building up. I don't think season 8 is going to be bad. I think it's just going to be a lot of closure on like what's gonna happen. Why are the living gonna win, or are the dead gonna win? Who's gonna be the last one on the
one
throne?
of the things which they in storytelling is usually I guess criticized about storytelling is if you have a dream sequence or if you have a magic sequence, like Jon Snow was dead according to my belief when I saw the end of, was it season 5?
Yeah,
he was being stabbed, kind of like Caesar, and that was the end, and he would be dead. I mean, he was stabbed multiple times, and somehow magically he was brought back.
Well, so one thing you missed out because you watched the recap thing was Melisandre, who was like the witch who brought him back to life, had previously saw the other witch guy bring the king back to life like 4 or 5 times.
It was well, it wasn't. It was the guy.
The guy, yeah.
Basically, there was this band of brothers, and within the band of brothers, that was in
season 4.
There was a priest version of this guy, and the leader of the band of brothers died like 4 or 5 times, and this guy brought him back to life 4 or 5 times.
I remember
and Melisandre met
right.
him, and that was when Melisandre bought that one Baratheon bastard.
And she was surprised. She's like, "You brought him back to life like 5 times," and so that was. They show that in episode 1 and foreshadow it.
So it wasn't. They tell you, they let you know that this kind of stuff is possible.
Yeah,
right.
But I do get what you're saying. Is like
it's kind of I don't know.
You can't like it hurts the dying part. Like now deaths are. Now you can argue, well, why don't you just bring him back to life? Bring a priest here or something. You know? Is that what you're arguing?
Yes, I'm.
It devalues the whole death aspect.
Yes, because we have stakes. We have, as a viewer, we're invested in people and events, and we fear the worst, and the worst is death.
I guess the only thing that helps in this case, other than them previously introducing the whole concept of bringing people back to life, is that at that point, Melisandre also had failed. She sacrificed that girl, and it didn't. It was supposed to help the Stannis' army, and it didn't. And that's why she just left, and she's like, oh, man, like... So at that point, it's also, you're not sure when you watch the episode. You're not exactly... It's not like you know that it's possible to bring her back to life, but you're not convinced that she'll be able to do it because she just recently failed.
And when during the ritual too, like when they're bringing him back to life, there also is a sense like okay, yeah, like she's a wit, or she has the potential to bring her back to life. But part of you just seeing how Game of Thrones goes and killing off main characters, you think for like a good amount of time that he's not going to become back to life because they stall the end where it's like.
Also, there's a big gap between, because that was the end of a season. So you saw that Jon Snow die, and then there was a whole probably another year till. So for the whole year, you're like, we're pretty sure he's dead.
Yeah.
But also like when we do think he's going to come back to life, they also tease us at the end where it's like because like they're like like we didn't do it. And so it just like goes to his body and he's like just dead, and like the spell didn't work.
She had attempted the spell, but it didn't work, or so they thought. So they all walked out of the room, and it's just quiet, and it's just. And
we're like, please don't end, like.
And it's just his body, and then it's like
and then he
creates suspense, and then all of a sudden he takes a big inhale.
What makes you like Jon Snow? I mean, of all the characters you've told me your preferences for characters.
He's brave. And let's see, how is he brave?
He's also the underdog.
Yeah, he's the underdog.
He's a bastard.
Yeah,
he's the underdog, and he takes. You get a sense he's always in danger, and then he's able to make it out.
He's sincere.
Yeah, sincere.
He has the qualities of Ned Stark, but like he doesn't lose at it for whatever reason. Well, I guess he did when he got backstabbed, but. Like he's
not that powerful, at least starting off.
Right.
He's able to fight his way.
But somehow you could tell by the way they captured his personality on screen, you knew there was more to him than a side character. Correct?
Yes.
Because they focused on him.
Is there any other character that they focused on in a similar way where you thought at the time, this person, for example, the younger brothers, I've been wondering, of the younger two, which one will be brought up? It's kind of, we've got these extra characters that potentially could come about, and clearly I've only seen this very, very quickly over the last 2 or 3 weeks or maybe months, so I don't know all the characters' names.
Like Rickon or Bran.
So the elder brother, for example, he could have potentially been he could have been a Jon Snow, but he wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, I guess also like in the beginning, his John's mother, well, stepmother, didn't like him.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, he has that not going for him. Then I guess Ned didn't disown him, but well, I guess there's nothing really with Ned and John.
Well, there was. They were gonna he was gonna tell him who his mother was, like who he actually was, basically.
Right.
So there was kind of like, oh, is he gonna, redeem himself in the family, sort of thing.
And I guess because there's also a lot of like evil and bad things, he stands out more. Whereas traditionally, yeah, you have characters like him.
Because he's at the wall, is that why? Is that what you're saying?
No, just like the actions that happens in King's Landing, the cruel, like the Ramsay Boltons and the Cerseys. There's a few of those characters.
What's the difference between Jon Snow and Tyrion?
They're both likable.
They're both likable, but they're both likable at a different way, in a different way. They're both underdogs. They're both...
I would say in the same way.
In Tyrion's sense, he comes from wealth, which...
Do we hold that against him?
No, but he...
Because Jon Snow comes from wealth too.
Yeah, that's true. Although he doesn't necessarily use it that much. Being in the Night's Watch, he's kind of stuck there, right?
He chooses a path which is not...
And then quickly his name becomes kind of used against him when everyone thinks his dad's a traitor. Whereas Tyrion uses...
Tyrion has nothing going for him.
Right. Well, his family name still... He can use that, other than the fact that nobody likes him because he's a dwarf. He uses his family name to kind of make plays.
I would argue both of... I think they're very... much the same.
They're parallels.
You like them for the same reasons. They're both hated by their family. Maybe at different degrees.
And it's by birth.
They're both not
It's not something that was in their control.
Yeah.
Right. They're both not supposed to be supported or liked because one's a bastard and the other one's a dwarf. And even their mistakes, or maybe you could argue they're not mistakes, but they both fall in love and then value the power and the their control more than they love. So Jon fell in love with Ygritte and then ended up choosing the Night's Watch. Tyrion fell in love with what's her name?
Yeah, I forgot the one.
Forget her
the
name.
one he kills.
Shae.
Shae falls in love with Shae and then chooses to stay as
Michael has pointed out that what Darnell just said.
What?
Rob. Oh, sorry.
Not Rob.
Oh, whoops.
But yeah, Jon
Rob
also
betrayed his cause for a cute lady. Oh, yeah. Rob. Oh, yeah, that's true.
He went the other way.
Rob went the other way.
Yeah.
So Rob was supposed to marry the Walter, or he's supposed to marry one of the guy's daughters. So,
oh yes,
Walder Frey's daughter.
they made a trade where they could cross the bridge or something.
Yes.
And Rob was supposed to marry the daughters, and then Rob didn't because he found that other lady.
Yeah.
Chose love, and then Jon did the opposite. Kind of. Well, he fell in love with a wildling girl, but then
he chose his duty over.
He chose his duty over the love. So
good point.
He's more noble in that sense.
Right.
Yes. So he's not as selfish.
So they both make this. Tyrion and Jon make the same mistakes, and I think they're liked for the same reasons. I don't think they're any different.
But so how come the women? Who is equivalent to Jon and Tyrion as a woman, which is a female character that is likable?
I think Brienne. I I like
but
that
she's a secondary character.
You're saying main characters? Probably Arya would be the one. Because she, for her whole life, has just been so close to meeting her family, and then they just die.
But notice that she doesn't have, there's no intentionality of sacrifice, because maybe she's too young.
She sacrificed her, well, you also missed that season as
well.
No,
but we don't see her, we're not as engaged with her as we are with these other two characters.
Yeah, she doesn't have to sacrifice anything, because her story is very much, she's just going to react how things are going to come.
Yes.
Whereas there's no choice, there's just a
reaction.
Exactly.
In season 6, it does focus more on her as far as like her choices of sacrificing her self-identity versus choosing to be an assassin.
So do we like people who make choices? Is that something that we find appealing in human beings?
Yes. Hard choices.
Does it have to be hard choices? Could it be anyone who, because even Tyrion's some choices are bad choices and they're not hard choices, and he chooses to live the life he chooses to live, but we find an appeal in that, similar to the other, what's his name, called the Dark Horse, or the guy with the one with the
Hound.
The
Hound. Yeah, I don't know why I thought he was a horse.
One of the animals.
The Hound, or even the other guy, the one that is Tyrion's sidekick.
I like that guy, Bronn.
They both seem, people who know what they want to do. It seems as if those people are the ones that at least I find more appealing as someone that I want to follow in a story, rather than the ones who are always a victim.
Yeah.
I also like the guys who sympathize with the bad guys, or like they're willing to give up whatever honor they have.
An example, yes.
To side with. Well, I guess again it would go back to Jon and Tyrion. Jon decides to go with the bring the wildlings in because he realizes there's a bigger, greater cause. Yeah. And then Tyrion decides to side with Dany because he realizes that she has the greater good of the people in mind versus their own sister. So yeah, I guess those qualities, being able to take yourself out of the us versus them and seeing the bigger picture is kind of a quality I like to see in characters.
Michael has something else to say, although I can't see it from here.
Michael, well, you had asked which of the female characters is the equivalent to Jon, and then Michael says Daenerys is supposed to be. That's the debate, is if Jon or Daenerys is the chosen one.
Although somehow Daenerys never... even though she was a victim of her brothers...
Yeah, but that quickly got kind of resolved.
Yes, and so... there's something about her which didn't appeal. What was it?
Because after she was the victim, now everyone is trying to serve her, minus the people trying to kill her. But so she's
already on top of things.
She's already on top of things, and it's really like, I have to pick who I trust, as opposed to like, Jon doesn't have people on his side, and he has
to work.
Yeah, he has to put in some work. She just goes around and frees the slaves and gets armies.
Right.
She has the power of the dragon, so she's already...
Do we not have as much depth to her as we do for Jon?
The reason why she doesn't... she would probably have more depth if she had more obstacles to go through. But the reason she doesn't have to is because she has the dragons. And they don't really stress the value in the dragons because of, there was a whole history of the last Targaryens that ruled, who had ruled for over 3,000 years, because they had dragons. So I guess the reason we don't see her as important or as interesting is because it's so easy for her to take care of her problems. You just use the dragons.
Maybe they should have. Remember when they were in the city of Karth?
Yeah.
Maybe the dragons should have been stolen at that point, and then Daenerys doesn't have them for a whole season or something like that, and then she has to she has to work her way to get them back. Because when she got into that Karth city, that warlock guy stole the eggs. And then relatively quickly, that was really, our dragons were stolen and then gotten back within the same episode.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, why we don't.
So Sam is another character. Sam is Sam.
Yeah.
We all like Sam.
Yes. Because he's closest to us, as in
he doesn't have any special.
Not a soldier.
He's weak.
The best he can do is read books. So that's why we relate to him.
Although it's sad when they go in season 6, he visits his family again because he leaves the Night's Watch.
Yes.
And so it's really sad because like basically his dad is just a jerk to him the whole time.
Because his dad had sent him away
to the Night's Watch.
Because he wasn't a good soldier.
And has a better son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Eyes. And then so they come back and they're just sitting at dinner and it's like a reunion.
It's very awkward.
He's bullying him.
Mm-hmm.
And
and then he decides to just leave.
And then he steals the family sword and runs away or something.
Yeah. So there's no resolution with the family.
No.
Right.
I think the mom is okay with him.
Yeah, the mom likes
But
him.
mom was okay with him even before he left. It was the father who was the one who had a need to...
Did they establish the mom before then?
The father was very adamantly... I mean, it was very clear that the father did not like
But actually,
him.
Who are you talking about?
Sam's father.
But
you've never seen it?
No,
you saw what that.
Told us.
Right.
He told us about it.
Right,
so I paid attention to what he was saying. No, not the recap.
They didn't have it.
No,
what he was, what John, or what, what
he just said it in words.
Yes, he said it in
words. Okay. What was it?
So my question was, what is it in Sam? Sam is the everyman that we like.
The everyday guy.
We all want to be, or the every woman, I guess.
And he's very self-aware of it too, which I like. Like he knows that he's not a fighter, but yet somehow he still manages to kill like a White Walker and a Fen.
And he's able to do it quite early on in the show, so it's kind of okay. Took care, been there, done that. Now I can go on to
read books.
Yes, read books and find out what I'm doing.
And then Michael says, referring to Daenerys, she just lights herself on fire. That's when her dragons were stolen.
Yes.
Then John fights everyone, so I think that's why we think his struggles make us more like him.
I'm trying to think of like characters in real life that don't really have to struggle, but they're still doing good in the world that we don't like. Right? Maybe it's just because of the show that we're less interested in the story.
Say that again?
Like, I feel like there's probably people in real life where it's like they haven't struggled at all.
Yes.
But they're using all their power to...
Bill Gates.
Yeah, that's true. But he's using all his power to do good. We still like him. But I think it's the fact that, like, maybe if we were watching the show of Bill Gates, we wouldn't be that interested.
Well, it's because it's like, if you're trying to be entertained, there's nothing necessarily entertaining about Bill Gates' story.
Right.
It's inspiring and a noble thing that he's doing now with like...
Would you think, what's his name, Apple...
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs and his father leaving him and
that probably is more interesting.
That's probably a more entertaining story,
Yes, so that's why they were able to make a movie on him.
A couple,
that's true.
think, yeah.
Yes.
That's probably it, yeah.
Yeah. You have to be deserted to have a good story.
Yeah, but she's also stubborn too, which is kind of irritating, which maybe you need to be as a leader, but I don't think you do. Like, she has a very...
She's not cool.
Who?
Daenerys.
Yes, she doesn't have the John...
Yeah,
coolness.
She's not witty. She's not... John's... Tyrion's witty, John's cool, and Daenerys doesn't have any of those.
And who doesn't?
Daenerys has neither of those traits.
Yeah, that's true.
It would have been nice, and I think that's what I miss, is usually women... In movies, we don't see cool women.
Yeah,
they don't usually have a sense of humor and be powerful. It's usually the overweight woman who is the funny woman, and that's it. You don't usually have the very the the equivalent of, Ocean's 11 and all those characters. You don't usually have people who are James Bondish.
Is that a lack of writing or a lack of acting?
I think it's a lack of writing.
I think so.
Characters like that are not created to show you can be a successful woman, have a sense of humor, and
that's true.
And Sansa, well, I guess she's not.
No, she doesn't have a sense of humor.
Arya, I think, is probably a good example of.
She doesn't have a sense of humor.
Well, Arya
cool,
and Sansa both, like, they get their comeback again in, like,
on.
season 6 and 7.
Yeah,
yes.
But Sansa's not like cool and witty.
There's no
she's not
wittiness
funny,
to
but
it.
but Arya is kind of, she's cheeky.
Yeah, but cheeky is different to being witty and.
That's true, I suppose. I mean, yeah.
Maybe she's.
But
not...
is she cool though? She's an assassin. That's pretty cool.
Yes. I don't know.
I guess maybe it's because she's not a leader. But I think, I was interested in her.
Well, Tyrion isn't a leader.
Yeah, he is.
He's not really a leader.
He leaded the Blackwater Bay, and then
He initiated that. You're right, but it's but nobody wanted to follow him. He did it in spite of the fact. So he led.
Well,
but nobody followed.
He does in
later
in season 6. He does lead the what is it? I don't even remember the city name. The one where Dany just left.
Yeah, the old
city. Basically,
where Stannis used to be.
He's coming in as a foreigner dwarf.
Yes.
And he has to like gain the trust of everyone, and lead the whole city. So that, I guess, is more of his thing. But you're right. Like in, he was chosen. Like it was his dad who just put him there.
Yes.
And then he made decisions.
And he doesn't have a group of people who go Tyrion.
Except for us.
Except for us, yeah.
The viewer.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
What does Michael say?
No, he didn't say anything there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Michael, I hope you realize that we look to you to lead us through this discussion.
Yes.
Michael.
Because it's tax season and I have a headache.
It is.
I already did my taxes 2 months ago.
Yeah. Well, it's not that hard.
Do you not feel that tax reports should be automated?
It kind of is to a degree.
Yeah, so why does it take extra?
It doesn't. Depends if your life is that complicated.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of things. But
if you have a job, if you're well organized, I think you can handle it.
Yeah.
But you have to file extra stuff if you make money at other places, and you haven't been keeping.
So it's a rich man's problem.
Yeah, it's a rich man's problem for the most part. Because otherwise, you essentially you get the software. The software costs $15 to $20, I think.
Should it even cost anything?
So the government is actually they're bringing that up.
It doesn't cost money to file taxes, but this software is developed by non-government entities, right? So, and they don't get paid by the government. So the TurboTaxes of the world. So
the government should pay for it.
So
you could subsidize. Yeah, this should be a tool that the government developed, but
yes,
you know how that works. So yes, the government should either buy one of these companies or to subsidize all of it.
Or contract with them.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw an article last week that said that they were going to, but I mean, who knows how long that'll take. But they want, for next year, they want to have an electronic version, kind of like TurboTax, where it's easy and, you don't have to
I think the government hesitates with computer stuff just because it's sensitive information and
security
I wonder what the loss would be. Why would the government prioritize in contracting to a TurboTax equivalent? Would they gain from having it free and easily accessible and part of the system or not?
Yeah.
It's more of a liability issue, I feel like, because what was it like with Obamacare? That it was taking too long to get the the website to load.
Well, the government...
And if people are doing it last minute and everyone's using the website, they don't want to have to deal with the whole...
So the capacity
this is your fault.
They don't have the capacity, you're saying?
They don't have the capacity, and they don't want to take on the liability of...
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a technological understanding. So, Facebook doesn't have a problem with load. It's called load balancers. That's how you balance like additional demand.
Right.
So they just need to invest in their IT department, essentially.
Yeah, well, that's what I would imagine. I see the same thing that happens in education as well, that we contract out to have very inefficient systems created, and then we're jumping through hoops constantly and trying.
Which is very ironic for an educational institute, don't you think?
I think it's ironic
not
only
hard
for
to
educational institution, but it's also ironic that we're in Silicon Valley, and the educational institutions in the Valley or in California are so behind the times as far as technology is concerned.
Do you think that has to do with leadership and their unwillingness to change?
Or funding?
Yes. The problem with government organizations...
Everything's going fine. We don't want to move anywhere.
They're bureaucratic. A lot of paperwork. The positive of paperwork and documentation is that you have oversight. The negative of it is you're left doing all this ridiculous paperwork or bureaucratic work, which doesn't really benefit. And so you can't do quick turnarounds because you have to go through multiple iterations, and it takes years and years to get legislation passed to be able to...
Too many people create too much fog.
Yes.
Too many processes?
I don't know if it's too many people. It's we create some ties that bind us in a system that we think we cannot change because we've decided that we need to follow those same rules. It's like that joke where I think it's like the joke. You tell me if it is or not. Somebody who used to make mutton roast, and every time she would make it, she would cut it into 3 slices or cut it smaller. And then one day she says, I want to make it, and I don't have a pot the right size. And she asks her mother, why did we used to cook it that way? And she goes, oh, that's only because I didn't have the pot the right size. And so you forget why you've got something in place.
Yeah, I agree. And
you just stick to it because you've always done it that way. And then, you turn around and say, well, things have changed. And that was at that time, we didn't have the support we needed.
Yeah.
So
it takes individuals to question the process.
Yes.
Like I remember just getting some training, and it's like, someone's teaching me about how to update this report, and I'm looking at the design of the report and how they're not using a spreadsheet how it's supposed to be. Like they're expanding it horizontally,
yes,
as opposed to vertically.
Yes.
Well, why do they do that?
That's exactly what I asked.
Because it was set up that way. It's like that short story, The Lottery. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, I read that.
You remember what that was? The Lottery was horrifying. Yeah. It's about this village where they have a lottery, and the whole story is about this lottery and who's going to be chosen in the end. The person
you don't know
what
it's about.
You don't know what the lottery is about, and the person who's chosen is going to be stoned.
No,
for the farm.
Yes. So basically, that was, and nobody knows why they have this lottery.
Right.
Yeah, and everyone's nervous to be
Yes.
chosen, and you're wondering why.
Yeah, why would you be nervous to be chosen? And then you realize, oh my goodness, you're going to be killed.
Stoned, yeah.
So it's basically about how, as humans, we are not, we don't think about. But on that note, it brings me back to the Game of Thrones, because I imagine that's a world which is, whether it's having bastards and having a whole, the battle of the bastards and that concept of whose child are you and the inheritance, all of these older way of doing things, which still seem so appealing to us. We're still engaged with these centuries-old ways and don't question what the story, like the story of today of the bureaucracy of educational systems or government systems, that is so, there's nothing appealing in it, is it?
Yeah, because the traditional ones action is more decisive, because it's usually there's masters and slaves, and the masters get their way when they say what's going to happen.
Yes.
Whereas in this type of thing, bureaucracy, it's like we want to be fair, and then so through that process is not just because you say something doesn't mean you get your way.
And so we'll never have a grand...
It becomes confusing, and it also just becomes less appealing for some reason.
So a story needs to be cut and dry, and you need to have a dark side and...
cut and dry, in that... Well, I guess you have less... The people have less power in this free society. Less power in... making like group decisions,
definitive decisions, yes,
and allocating resources.
It makes it less heroic.
If it's a group resource, then it's like the resources don't all go.
You've got to vote on it.
Yeah, you got to vote on it.
And you got to fill out paperwork.
And then,
So we will not have a Game of Thrones of our times.
And
what would that look like?
And that's probably a good thing.
Come on, what would it look like if we had a Silicon Valley version of a Game of Thrones?
Well, I was just going to say, look at Kim Jong.
Yes.
Or whoever just look at the existing dictatorships, and that's what that would look like. But in context with Silicon Valley,
California or America,
I guess Silicon Valley kind of is like that in a sense.
Well, we were interested in that documentary. That was the
Elizabeth Holmes, the Harvard.
That was interesting.
That was kind of. That was strange.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It's very weird.
For our viewers, kind of do a recap.
Yeah, Elizabeth Holmes is
she was a
Harvard or Stanford
dropout,
and she
medical school.
Yeah, she came up with this idea to basically simplify blood testing, so you can get all sorts of results from just a drop of blood, as opposed to traditionally you have to do a lot of different lab tests and it takes way longer. So she started this business called Theranos, and like her concept was okay, but like she got a lot of backing from very famous people, Bill Gates and whoever else.
And the controversy that there was a lot of people telling her that like not only is this not possible, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, so the idea was good, but as they were developing, they quickly realized the development just took a halt. Like they weren't really getting new results, and then as the time came that they had to actually roll out something that worked, as they said, they started basically doing just how it's normally done. Yeah. They took the blood samples and then they used
they weren't experienced.
Old machines. And then the way they were doing the test was not correct. And so basically she kept trying to cover up.
But even the whole system of where they had these parties and it was a Game of Thrones kind of party setup.
Well, it's funny because it looks very much like
any
startups.
regular Silicon Valley company.
Yeah, like when my time at Upstart, which was like one of those, it was like very similar.
An Upstart?
Yeah, it was an Upstart. It was very similar. Like the Christmas party was like, we're just having drinks. It was, I guess my experience wasn't like very crazy like that, but.
Yeah.
But I also think there are still like parallels to existing companies, like when they were talking about people who were bringing up like the problems to upper management, and they were just kind of like, whatever. And I think that's very real I'm sure in today, like.
And I'd hear like some of the salespeople would tell me like, oh yeah, like when you talk on these specific conference calls with the customers, one of these guys will like call you out and like make you lose your job. And I don't know how true this was in regards to the people they were talking about, but it's out. No, in my own experience.
Oh, okay.
When we go on conference calls.
There were people who would try and trip you up.
There would be power struggles within your calls that you'd have, and apparently to the point where it would affect your career. So they could kind of be like,
beware.
Connected to the whole Game of Thrones.
So what would the line be? Like, winter is coming. What would be? Beware the call. Or beware the caller.
That was more in regards to operations, but I don't know what it would be.
I think
beware the customer.
The politics are the same, but the outcome is not.
It's less severe.
So
you wouldn't have your eyes gouged out and your head squashed in.
Yeah,
But
but
what
maybe
would
you
be
would
the
lose
Metaphorically, you
Yeah.
might.
but maybe you might lose out on millions of dollars.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing is like with tech companies specifically is can become very rich.
Mm-hmm.
And so to a degree, they become a very powerful entity.
What is it? What's the name of the rich family? The
Lannisters?
the
Or
Lannisters.
Tyrells?
Yeah,
Tyrell.
the Lannisters are, well, they're both rich to their
Yeah.
in their own regards.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, these companies can become like those rich families to a degree, but the dynamics are all different. But what's interesting though is that small people, aka the startups, can branch out if they want to. If there's like some struggle within the company,
They can become the Jon Snow.
exactly. So they have power too. So that I guess makes
So who
it
are the
interesting.
wildlings?
The wildlings are just
Are they the lone
Are just-
coders?
They're entrepreneurs.
They're
who
the-
haven't
they're the-
succeeded.
They're
they're
supposed
the-
to be the
they're
ones
the
who don't
nar-
follow anything.
the
Yeah.
non-tech people. They're the people who want to
Are
live
they
off
the
the grid.
non-tech?
Kind
Oh,
of,
actually,
because
yeah. They're off the grid.
they're resource dry. They're off the grid.
Yeah.
They're I was going to say
But they
dumb, in quotes.
aggressively. They're aggressive, but
Yeah.
they've got this freedom that's what John.
Well, you could argue that those people who want to live off the grid are like, we
Yeah.
don't want this technology.
They're the
we
like
wanna be
financially
free.
independent but minimalist people. I feel like those are the the
Yeah.
wildlings.
But without this technology, you risk long-term survival.
Yes,
And
and
living in that-
who are the White Walkers in this modern day?
The
I hope they
cons-
don't exist.
The consumers, the consumers of the social
'cause
media.
they can kill you by not following, by not using your.
Yeah, there's like, we like social media. We are gonna follow whatever the thing tells us,
Yes.
and then
Or are they politicians?
politicians would be the ones who manipulate.
yeah.
So that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's the Circes of.
I
They're
don't think
the-
there. Well,
Well,
maybe there's a White Walker.
and somewhat incestuous.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably trying to keep their
the
friends,
bloodline.
only the
Yes.
friends in the party.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
What would be the music be?
Or maybe the White Walkers is AI of today, and they're trying to.
Because we don't know what.
We don't
it'll
know
bring.
the motive of the White
Yeah.
Walkers.
Yes.
But maybe it's something good. Maybe they're just.
Maybe they realize
And the connection between the White Walker and the human beings, because you die and you become a White Walker,
yes,
and the technology
somehow we could.
becomes. I mean, there's a connection between the.
Humans' death could be the birth of AI, and maybe
Mhm.
our form we will evolve into that. So
Something
maybe
better.
as the humans evolve into the death, the White Walkers, we could evolve into some
AI.
artificial
And what about
intelligent beings.
what about the spaces? I mean, I'm interested in that photograph that they've taken
the
of
black
the
hole?
black hole. Yes,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking AI, the black hole is
Well, it
maybe
does
the.
kind of suck. I mean, I know it's supposed to be impressive.
what sucks?
It's
The
like
image.
so blurry, and it's just like just orange, like half circle.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah, I
still.
know, I
Come
know.
on.
I know.
It's like taking a photograph of an atom or something.
Yeah, that's true.
But I get what you're saying. Artistically, it doesn't look very good.
I like the artistic renders, the one
Better.
that the what do you call it, dramatized versions. It's like
Yeah.
it's explosions
Versus an orange
So
circle.
what was the question? Or what were we
I'm
saying?
saying the spaces in this
Yeah, what
story
was
of ours.
Oh,
Where does
yeah.
black holes take?
That's the
'Cause that's the
undiscovered world.
Yes.
That's for. We need to become AI beings. We need to solve the problems locally first, but that leaves more. It needs to be analyzed. We're like computers, but right now we're just lame computers.
Mm.
Then when we become AI beings, we become more efficient. We become better computers, and then we can analyze.
And we'll be able to see the time in between.
And maybe we can't see. Maybe there's stuff in between what you call space.
That's exactly what I.
Okay.
Time
But we
in
can't.
between,
Right.
yes.
But we can't see it with these the eyeball sensors.
Yes.
You need something else. Maybe there's another. We're talking about light here with your eyeballs. But maybe there's another medium in which information is transferred.
So who are the witches in our story?
The witches. Oh,
Yes.
like the priestesses.
Yes, yes. Because they seem evil. Nobody who knows witchcraft.
Yeah, they brought John back to life. That's
yes,
nice.
But what was the ulterior motive to bring John back? Since I didn't see that season, was there a motive?
She wanted to redeem herself because she basically failed the previous king.
So Stannis. She wasn't becoming a better person.
She was redeeming herself.
But she wasn't becoming a better person. She just wanted people to believe her, correct? Or was she...
She wanted to believe herself, probably, because she probably didn't...
Well, I think she's online as in, like, okay, this Jon Snow guy is going to save the kingdom. Mm-hmm. So I think she's just trying
Did she want the kingdom to be saved? Because this doesn't sound
Well, when she was with Stannis, she thought Stannis was the rightful heir.
Right.
And so I guess she believes that Stannis as king would be the way the kingdom should be run. So I guess once Stannis was defeated, I don't even know if she knew that, then she turned to Jon Snow for whatever reason. So I don't know
what her ulterior motive is. I think she's just
modern day psychologists would be the equivalent or something.
But yeah,
it would be someone not related to technology, more into some
doctors,
like, voodoo magic,
or dentists.
So I have a question of you, Nabil. You generally don't like being interested, or you tend to be turned off in things or music or stories that everybody is into. This is something everybody's into, and you are into it too.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
It's not. It's I don't know. It's
It's on a different level.
It's interesting. Why is it interesting? I guess there's depth to it. Whereas a traditional show, I mean, there's so many sword fighting dragon shows or whatever that are just so boring. I don't know why.
It's because it's very linear. The protagonist usually isn't going to die. The bad guy never wins. Yes. In the end, at least. So that's why it's not as interesting, I think. Like the typical dragon and fantasy things.
What about you, Danielle? 'Cause you tend to seek out different unique things. Is this that level of unique?
I think so. Well, I mean, Breaking Bad, I feel like, was in the same sort of area.
Yeah.
But again, like the protagonist pretty much lived throughout the whole thing. But it was cool because we were rooting
for the bad guy. Although, would you argue that these things are still cult type followings and not? I mean, it's mainstream to a degree, but there's still people who don't watch these things.
Well, I was one who didn't watch it.
Right. I would still put it in the mainstream. It's kind of like pop music.
Yeah.
I suppose
this
is fantasy's crossover to the mainstream. You could argue.
Well, Lord of the Rings was, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And Harry Potter. Harry Potter probably had a huge.
That's true, but that's about it. Like, I'm sure there's many more fantasy productions that just go unnamed.
Well, I don't know if you put Star Wars in that category.
Yeah, you could put Star Wars and Star Trek to a degree, but it's like, let's see, that's where. Yeah.
Or Avengers.
I guess it would be good if we knew the numbers.
Avengers is pretty. That's all magic and.
Yeah, the comic book series has become pretty mainstream. I mean, if you think about its roots, whenever comics were popular, I don't know, the 80s or something, that was a very, you should be the nerdy guys who are into that. And now it's, once you put big muscular dudes, although like Ant-Man's not muscular. I like Ant-Man. I don't like the comic book series stuff. I just was never interested in it, but Ant-Man for some reason is funny because first of all, what is his name? Jude?
Yeah,
Jude? No.
No.
Shoot.
I was gonna say Jude Law.
No, it's not Jude Law. It's just the goofy guy.
Yeah.
Michael, who is Ant-Man?
The actor.
Shoot. Well, anyway,
you can Google it.
That actor I like, but also Ant-Man. He's just like a ridiculous, like, he's not a macho guy, and it's unexpected, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know why comic books are kind of getting, or the comic book movies, I should say. Maybe it's because they're, like, I like the Wolverine series a little bit. Like, I like the last episode.
Paul Rudd?
Yeah, Paul
Rudd. Yeah.
I like him because he's like
goofy and like
he's like,
I don't know what
he's cheesy, but like in a funny way somehow.
Yeah. Similar to Deadpool, but for some reason his is more goofy.
Yeah, his is more, Deadpool's more like trying to be edgy, kind of, maybe.
Yeah.
And Ant-Man is
goofy.
just silly and goofy. But yeah, I like him because it's like, you know, superhero, his name is Ant-Man, and that's his powers. He's like, can be an ant, but he can go into, but that actually is interesting because it's like scientifically based, where it's like you can go and use quantum mechanics to shrink yourself to, like, you know, sub-microscopic levels and stuff like that. So,
but I guess it's like after a while, once you see a certain pattern, maybe it just gets uninteresting.
Yeah, what makes things interesting to people?
That's new and fresh.
Well, I guess by definition, mainstream stuff is less interesting, or I should say, generally has less depth. Because if it appeals to so many people, there's so many common denominators that, you would get a simple low number.
Yeah.
Is that math? Common denominators and the number.
Does that add up?
Yeah.
Would you argue then that WittyBantr is not that popular because
a lot of depth,
too complex,
unique. We are quite there,
and we have discussed the need for identifying how much is wit and how much is banter.
Yes, but I think we look beyond the name. Apple. What is that, a fruit?
Apparently
that doesn't even come up. Nobody buys an Apple product and it's like, what? This is not fruit. What the hell does an apple have to do with this?
That's true. All the other technology companies have like
weird names.
Microsoft or like normal in the sense it's
normal technology.
Yeah.
So Apple.
That'll be a cool company name. Normal Technology.
What was that? What was the company we saw the other day? It was like most generic. No, it was like Advanced Technology Company or something like that. Where it was like,
I don't get what those. What's funny is those companies exist, and I bet you they make a decent amount of money for themselves.
Yeah.
It's like they just exist, so that should inspire everyone to start their own business, and you can do it. There's people out here, generic businesses making money.
Yeah,
so you can do it too. You don't have to be Apple. Be Normal Technologies LLC.
What would be Normal Technology
like
about?
Bob's
I don't know, just like
technology,
people using Excel sheets. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy, no AI, just like Microsoft Word.
We process orders.
Yeah. Oh, WeWork.
Oh yeah,
that was a name we saw recently. Apparently, I don't know who was
Bills.com.
Ajit or some. Maybe Faisal was telling us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bills.com. They have that building in San Mateo, I think.
It was literally just
when you come off the San Mateo Bridge, it just says Bills.com.
We process your bills.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
WeWork is more for like renting real estate for office space.
Yeah, but that kind of makes more sense.
Yeah.
When I first heard WeWork, I was like, what?
Yeah, we work.
Yeah,
of course
I work too.
Yeah, I work
Actually,
too.
no, I don't.
Actually, I don't.
Well, I work unpaid internship. But then when it was like renting property for companies, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get that name. What time is it? 7 minutes.
Yeah.
We can end it.
Oh, we got Game of Thrones in an hour.
Yeah.
We can go for a little longer.
We can.
We can fill this 7 minutes. I don't want to cheat the system. Yeah. Yeah, so we got Game of Thrones. We'll order a pizza.
I have some updates.
Faisal might be not coming. Oh, what's the update?
So I have two updates about my novel. I have one that it's a chapter has been posted on a Pakistani website called Neador TV.
Neador TV?
Neador, yes. Neador means the new era.
This is a Pakistani outlet?
It's primarily for Pakistani readers, but it's an English outlet. And then the other is another website, and it's called Delay. I think it's called. I'll tell you, Delay Fiction, and it's about what the website is about. Things that are not the usual, the expected, and it's called Delay Fiction, and they're going to be publishing the chapter that is written from the perspective of flies, and that was what I think they found interesting, because it's not the usual. You don't expect flies to turn.
And this is an American outlet?
This is an American outlet on the East Coast on a website. So,
interesting.
yes. And then in May, I'm going to do a reading in Mendocino, and hopefully it'll be actually a Sunday afternoon. And hopefully you guys will join me.
Oh, when is that again?
That is May the 19th.
Oh, May the 19th, okay.
Yes.
Do you have anything planned on that?
No.
You're just wondering. Okay.
So those are my highlights. Oh, and May the 4th and 5th will be at the Berkeley Book Festival. So maybe we'll have a
WittyBantr.
Maybe we'll have a
or something.
Yeah.
Then you started painting too.
I did start painting. I've started painting and
young Picasso.
Yes, young or middle-aged Picasso, or not Picasso, Picassette. But no, I don't like Picasso because he was a womanizer and
Really?
yeah. So anyhow, I have started painting.
Oil paints.
Yeah, and we can become our own leaders. We don't need to become that of what existed.
Yeah. You can be inspired by it.
Yeah.
So you can be inspired by it, but instead of saying I'm going to be the next Jefferson, I'm going to be the Nabil Rana
or you
I was
sound
meant
like.
to be.
Yes, I am the Nabil Rana.
And I'm going to go out there and just,
yes,
that's that.
Yeah, but I have a feeling I am not focused enough to be the anything.
But maybe that's just it.
Oh yeah, I could
that
be
is
the person that's
maybe it doesn't require that focus.
No,
I mean,
all over the place.
I mean, I keep confusing it. It's either Edison. I think it's Edison, not Jefferson.
Yes,
he was done with his career. He had retired at 40, and that's when he invented electricity.
Oh,
he was just going around, and he was like, apparently.
What did he do before he invented electricity?
Yeah, whatever his job was.
Being president. Was he president?
No, he wasn't. Why would he be president?
Yeah, well, I was confusing Jefferson and there's Darwin, so I can see why.
Yeah.
They all both look the same if you think about it. Jefferson and Edison.
Had their ponytails.
But yeah, then he retired. He's like, I'm done. I'm just going to take it easy. And then he's like, I want to work on stuff that I want to do and explore.
Benjamin Franklin invented electricity.
Yeah, he did.
Am I mixing up? So it was
Edison
Franklin.
with the light bulb.
Oh, Edison was a light bulb.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Back it up even older. Benjamin Franklin. Yeah.
Okay.
After he's done being a statesman or whatever.
Oh, yes.
He wanted to explore, and apparently he's like a little bit of a socialite. He
was a socialite, and he had a really interestingly flamboyant lifestyle. I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
He was like a modern, whoever's flamboyant these days. So he wasn't. I mean, he was focused in that, in one regard, but he was also
all over the place in another.
Yeah, so you never know. You might not need focus.
That is true, sir.
Yeah.
What about your work going well?
Yeah, my work's going well. Me and Daniel tried a social media cleanse and failed. We were like, we wanted to set more restrictions on when we would consume Facebook Messenger and YouTube.
Oh, did you put a time
No,
limit?
Just manual.
It
didn't
last.
The first day or two was okay, and I felt I was productive those days.
Mm-hmm. I just realized I had a lot of free time, but I didn't have any hobbies.
But then sometimes, Daryl realized he had a lot of free time and no hobbies. I went, but then I ran out of gas, and it was the same thing as me using the social media more, except I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, it was the same for me.
I was just, I started going for walks, but well,
that's good.
Yeah. But I pretended like I was like at my office, and like at lunchtime I'd turn the lights off and go outside and just do a lap around. Mm-hmm. But then after that, there would be periods of like low focus, but not being on social media didn't necessarily
change it,
cure that.
Yeah.
But I'm learning. Progress is being made. I'm learning about CloudFormation, which is an AWS service that allows you to spin up resources as code. So if you needed a server, traditionally you have to go buy a computer, put it together, plug in the internet, and blah, blah, blah. This is basically like, I want the power of that, and I'm going to just define it in a code, and then I just hit submit, and then AWS handles the rest. So that's like that in a nutshell, which I argue is the future of the way developers are going to set up resources. So your IT department at your school, you know, there was a request one time that came to me, which I think the music department or someone wanted a library of, do you remember this?
Yes.
Wanted a library of music at their fingertips or something like that.
It was history department.
Something like that. So in that kind of project, part of it would be, okay, where are we going to store these music files?
Where's the server? It was videos.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, video clips.
So with this CloudFormation service that AWS has, instead of me renting a server, I would just, it's kind of like renting a server, but it's different. So, so yeah. So I'm learning stuff. So that's important.
Learning things.
Yeah.
How about you?
Just back on social media. Just realized I had a lot of free time. I tried coffee roasting, and apparently it makes the house smell.
Oh, yeah, it was smelling.
It was really bad for me as well. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I learned I'm not doing that.
you that was the coffee roaster thing that's lying there?
Yeah.
Didn't work.
It works. It's fine, but like the smell is just too intense, and which is probably why they have like the whole ventilation system on it.
You didn't put the exhaust on?
I did, but it wasn't
you didn't
enough.
buy all the $5,000 cup.
Well, if I did it would have came with the
ventilation.
Probably, yeah.
Would have come.
Would have came.
Would have come.
What was the thing in the show? That was funny. Where he's like,
yes, less versus
he's
fewer.
like, yeah.
That's what it was. Stannis.
But one of the Night's Watch said like less, and then Stannis in the background's like fewer. But you said it before him.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's like Stannis was what does that say about his character?
It's very...
Because it didn't I mean, there's no reason for him to say that, right? Other than, maybe he's like, well, these guys are stupid. I'm
exactly.
Because he probably left. I mean, he was going to leave anyway, but maybe he's like, these guys
are dimwits.
Because you can count.
What?
You could count guards. Whatever you can count, you say fewer.
Oh, right.
If you can't count, then you can.
Right. Okay, well, it's 5:02, so I suppose we'll wrap it up. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and until next time,
signing out.
toodaloo.